All right, well, it's about 2 minutes after 1, everyone, and we're going to go ahead and get started. Welcome to day 2 of our 3-day Community Engagement Awards celebration. My name is George Daniels. I'm in the Department of Journalism and Creative Media, and I am pleased to once again be chairing the Engagement Awards Recognition Committee this year. We have an action-packed day for you for day 2. If you missed day 1, you missed a lot. You missed the great presentations from our undergraduates and graduate students and faculty who had poster presentations yesterday. You also missed the opportunity to hear from our new Dotson Scholarship winner, but there's good news. If you weren't able to be on yesterday, that recording will be made available to you online next week as we provide an opportunity for another audience to see the great work that's being done in the area of community engagement. As we said yesterday, when we talk about community engagement here at the University of Alabama, we're not just talking about community engaged scholarship as in presentations and academic publications. We're talking also about community engaged learning. They may happen in a classroom environment. Sometimes we call that service learning. We also engage, when we talk about community engagement, with those who are doing civic engagement. This year, our awards program is designed to actively promote and encourage work in all 3 of those areas. To get us started today, we want to begin with a word from our chair of our Council for Community-Based Partnerships Executive Committee, Dr. Peter Helebowitz. Let's go to him at this time.
Hi, everyone. I'm Peter Helebowitz, Dean of the College of Education at the University of Alabama and Chair of the Executive Committee of the Council of Community-Based Partnerships. The Council exists to connect faculty, staff, students, and community partners in research-based projects designed to solve critical problems identified by community members and the university. All academic disciplines are represented on the Council, which is comprised of community and campus members, and which numbers more than 160 individuals. The Council, through its various committees, oversees project funding, conducts an annual award program, the reason that we're gathered here today, proposals methods to integrate teaching and research, and seeks outside funding, all with the goal of fulfilling the Division of Community Affairs motto, engaging communities and changing lives. Each year, we honor the best work in engagement scholarship. Because of the global pandemic, our awards program has taken on a decidedly different format. The 2021 awards program is taking place over 3 days. Yesterday, we heard highlights from the Student Community Engagement Center and recognized Leadership Academy participants. We also had the opportunity to see academic poster presentations and celebrate Chris Brewster, the recipient of the Dotson Scholarship, which is presented each year to an outstanding student and employee of the Division of Community Affairs. Today, our second day, provides an opportunity to hear from our 2020 seed fund recipients, and meet those who will receive seed funds during the 2021 cycle. Seed fund awards are made in amounts of up to $5,000 for community-based, community-engaged research projects that seek to advance the quality of life for Alabamians. The purpose of these awards is to provide startup funding supportive for community engagement research and scholarship. Additionally, while travel funds are not currently being awarded because of travel restrictions related to the pandemic, we look forward to the time when we can resume this support. We'll have an opportunity later to hear more from a past recipient of travel funds. So thank you for joining us, and I hope you enjoy hearing from the 2020 Seed Fund recipients.
So our focus today is really on 2 areas, our travel fund program and our seed grant program. And as Dr. Helebowitz just reminded us, it's interesting when we talk about travel to talk about it in the context of 2020, 2021, because we're still under travel ban here at the University of Alabama. Well, actually, because of the ongoing work that involves our faculty and students and staff traveling, we had some people travel even before the pandemic. And at this time, we want to shift and talk a little bit about what happened when 2 of our students doing community engagement work traveled. Let's show you where they went. The pandemic really started in March, but in February, we had a graduate student in the College of Communication and Information Sciences at that time, Mr. Mateo Zangara, and an undergraduate student, Mr. Marvin Adams, board a plane in Birmingham, Alabama, fly through Atlanta, and then on to Greensboro, North Carolina. Why were they on that flight? Well, our next slide shows you. They were on board because they were going to be presenting at Elon University. It was the North Carolina Campus Compact, where you see here Mateo Zengara talking to a room full of community engaged experts, service learning instructors, staff, who were gathered at Elon University to learn about engagement work across their state. This was called the PACE Conference. Our next slide tells you more about what he was talking about. He was telling the story in Hale County, Alabama, specifically at Hale County Middle School. And we also had some work happening next door at Hale County High School. The last slide in this deck shows you they were there for the Pathways to Achieving Civic Engagement Conference. Remember, we talked about the importance of civic engagement being part of community engaged scholarship. Well, that's in fact why we were participating in this conference. If we come back live now, you'll have a chance to see more about what we're talking about when it comes to promoting student travel. Even though we don't have travel award winners from 2020-21, there were still students traveling through the council and the Center for Community-Based Partnerships. And that was because of a program called the Alabama Community Capacity Network. Both Mateo and Marvin were participating in a class that was a part of a network of a dozen classes across Alabama involved in some aspect of community engaged learning. In this case, they were presenting on their partnerships in Hale County. And we're pleased today to have with us both of those students to tell you more about their experience. I want to start out with Mateo and just ask, as a graduate student in community engagement or in communication last year, now you're in the Department of History, but talk to us about the work that you did with community engagement, both in the fall and the spring last year.
Yeah, and in the fall, most of the work I did was just in recording video of a lot of the campus visit days. So there were a lot of the Gear Up Alabama days or the camp days. And those were events that the university held for the area high schools and outside of Tuscaloosa County. But they would come and at those Gear Up days or those campus visits, we'd have different speakers and they'd have a lot of different programs. They would get to engage and see kind of like what campus life was about. And then later in the spring, of course, I took your mass comm service and diversity class as well.
Now, one of those videos that you recorded was from a Gear Up Day for students from Greene County. Let's take a look at that video. If you can go ahead and show that to us right now.
I'll share it right now. So this was a video that was I took late in the fall of 2019. And that's with Marvin, who's speaking with some of the students that were there that day. Does everyone see my screen?
Yes, we do.
Film and storytelling has always been a passion of mine. But after going through, you know, depression and that personal journey that I went through, I became more so concerned about mental health. And so communication studies basically affords me the knowledge to be able to study how a person communicates. So when I do get my undergraduate degree, it'll basically set me up to go into getting my master's in clinical health counseling. So yeah, it was an easy transition because I was in college for so long and lost along the way. I ran out of financial aid. And so I'm having to sit this semester out, work, save up money, find more scholarships and grants and everything of that nature that I can apply for and take advantage of and come back into the university. So breaks are okay if you have to. Like, college is gonna be here. I would rather you come into college and go into your degree knowing exactly what you want to do and who you are versus the path that I took, being lost and just wasting all of this money that's out there and building on this debt that is really going to be hard to pay off when it's all said and done.
So it's not a straight line always.
It's
Sometimes
not
there'll be
always a straight
breaks
line.
along the way. That's also important, guys and ladies and gentlemen, to know that.
Take every opportunity that comes that you take advantage of it. Like I said, try to know exactly what you want to get your degree in, and if you don't, that's okay. If you come into, college, you want to go to college, just do your general studies until you figure it out.
All right. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen right now.
You took video of that event, and you also got a chance to, at other times during the semester, capture some of the training that was a part of the Gear Up program.
Yes. And that was the other part of the program. So that was where we were working more with the students that were either in the other classes, but they were participating in those camp days, and that they were preparing their presentations.
So you did the video capture, but lo and behold, Marvin Adams ends up in the same class as an undergraduate student. And then both of you got an opportunity to go to Elon. Marvin is with us today also. And Marvin, we only have a few minutes, but I'm interested in hearing your perspective about traveling to Elon and talking about your experience at the University of Alabama.
Definitely. So going into traveling to Elon University first, that was my first time ever boarding a plane. I've never boarded a plane before, so it was a great opportunity. Um, Anxiety was through the roof. God, it was through the roof, but it was an amazing experience. I made some amazing connections. Even today, some of the social workers that I met at the PACE conference, I'm still keeping in touch with, and they're helping me along the lines of getting into grad school and things of that nature. My experience at the University of Alabama has been a blessing. I can only call it a blessing now, just because of the opportunity that has come from being at the University of Alabama. I transferred into the university from Alabama A&M University, and it started off a bit rocky. You hear me talk about depression in the video that Mateo played, and the depression started my very first semester at the university. And so it's like I said, it started off rocky, but in the end, right now, I can honestly say that it's been more of a blessing than anything.
Now, one of the things that you shared during the conference presentation, besides PowerPoint presentation slides about your service experience, was something that you composed. And I'm hoping
Yes,
that
sir.
we have time today to hear a little bit of that particular presentation. Tell us more what you developed for that audience.
So this particular piece is a poem that I wrote called "Everything's All Right." I wrote it the first semester at the University of Alabama, and this particular piece of poetry brought me out of depression. Um, and it's pretty short, so I'll go ahead and share it with y'all. And again, it's called "Everything All Right." Everything's all right. When the sun goes down and the moon lights the sky, at the end of the day, everything is all right. Every stress in the world, with every burden of the soul, I know troubles don't last always, so I keep on keeping on. In the midst of the storm, ships will sink and some will sail, but we must carry on our path and find the will to prevail. Though the fight may leave you weary, leave you at your wits' end, all that matters is the courage. All that matters is the courage to get up and fight again. When the sun goes down and the moon lights the sky, at the end of the day, everything is all right. So this is a very special piece to me. I actually just printed this piece off and put it on my wall just a few days ago. So yeah, that's that piece. It's very special to me. I view it everywhere. It's even my screensaver on my phone.
Now, when we talk about poetry, often that is only viewed from a creative standpoint. But as part of your presentation, one of the things you taught, and we gave what we, let me back up and explain to our audience. We talked to the service workers, the community engaged workers in North Carolina about how do you handle different scenarios where there's a problem and there's an opportunity for a solution. And one of the problems that we talked about was the gap when it comes to health disparities, healthcare. And just, we don't have time to go through all of the scenario, but Marvin, how did you connect your experience in Greene County to one of those scenarios?
So specifically, my mom is always back and forth in the hospital. And so the way that I was able to connect the two is basically going in, and I go into any situation. And the first thing that I want to do is understand. I want to listen to that person. And when we can listen to what someone has going on, because our journeys won't always be the same, we'll have ups and downs. And so if we're able to walk into a situation with clear intent, wanting to understand, we can always find those solutions. And that was one of the things that I usually preach when I'm going in and I'm talking to nurses and doctors when I'm dealing with my mom. Let's try and understand her pain and what she's going through before we brush it off, because that does happen a lot. There have been many cases where we've had to fight to get her the proper medications for pain because she's home and she's hurting all the time, and ways to keep her blood pressure down and things like that. So a lot of times just going in with clear intent and wanting to understand what's going on is always my biggest thing. And I think that that's how we get solutions to improve the qualities of everybody's experience on this earth, on this plane.
Mateo, what was the nature of your work at the middle school? You talked about going there. Kind of describe for our audience what you did there and what you share in the presentation.
Yeah, and what we did at the school, at the partnership that we did, was that we it was myself and three other students from the class. We ran the after school program, and it was the after school communications club, the media club after at the middle school. And so we went down once a week, and what we were doing is that we were teaching them about media, helping them develop different media skills. So sometimes we'd bring, different equipment from UA. Sometimes we'd bring cameras or like green screens, so they could not just like play around with those things, but also, start learning how to use those. And so again, we were trying to keep in with the goals that the middle school had, and that they wanted to develop, films, short videos, and eventually develop an ad team. And that's what the goal of what we were doing was. We were trying to help and just provide just not only our own background in film, but also to sort of help the students, just as they learn, but then also bring their own ideas to the screen.
And over at the high school, Marvin, you were on a different day part, but you were part of a team working with Gear Up students. Talk about what you did over there.
So with Gear Up Alabama, we basically helped the students with ACT prep and provided mentorship for them. So everybody wasn't wanting to go to a university. Some wanted to do trade, some wanted to drive trucks and do welding and things of that nature. And so what we did was go in and help them prepare for whatever field that they wanted to take after they graduated high school. And like I said, it was definitely a great experience to be in Hale County High School. Everyone there it seemed familiar. It reminded me of Greene County.
Do you think it made a difference that you came from another county in the same region? We call those black belt counties, in terms of how you connected with the students?
I think it made a huge difference just because I felt like I knew the students. The way that they grew up was how I grew up. And so being able to connect on that level and to be able to share my experiences with them and everything that I've gone through, and show them that it may get hard. We may not have the same opportunities as some of the larger cities, but we can get there.
Well, unfortunately, we would love to hear more about your work, but one last question for you, Marvin or Mateo. What was the impact of being able to take your story and share it in North Carolina?
Mateo, you want to take it or?
Sure, I can go. For me, it was a really great experience participating at the conference. Not only because it was, my first time to, present like with a panel and being able to speak at the conference, but those types of experiences are really valuable for students in general. Just in my opinion, I think that definitely for students or graduate students or definitely students. No matter what period they are in their academic career. Those types of experiences really do help you not only just grow, as a student or just like as a scholar, depending, whatever you are presenting on. But it also, helps you. In addition, I think it helps you grow professionally. And so, for me, I found it a really valuable experience. Going to the conference, getting to learn, network, because for me, I found that it was helping me to learn sort of how to navigate that professional environment.
Mateo Zingara and Marvin Adams, thank you so much for taking time today. I know it was on
My
short
pleasure.
notice, but we are glad that you shared your travel experience. And you guys have a great afternoon. Let me let everyone know that we expect the University of Alabama is going to lift that travel ban any day now. And as soon as that happens, if we go to our website, you'll be able to see that there is information about our travel grant program. As Dr. Lebowitz mentioned, we did not award travel grants this year, but those are available twice a year. If you go to the website, you will be able to see information about how to apply. There also is a link on that website that gives you some guidelines for making your application very likely to be funded. The purpose of the travel grant funding program is to support the dissemination of community engaged work and scholarship, but also training. So hopefully as soon as that happens, there's a link in the chat for you to go and check that out. If you're not eligible, you will be able to tell those graduate students about this opportunity. And with that in mind, we're going to shift gears to the second goal of our day 2 of our engagement award celebration, and that is to recognize our seed grant award recipients and our previous recipients from 2020. And I'm going to turn things over to Dr. Martha Crowther, who has been in charge of that program for many years, and will take you through the rest of the afternoon. Martha?
Thank you, Dr. Daniels. Hello and welcome, everyone. I'm so excited to finally join you and see some of your smiling faces and some of your photos on Zoom. Okay, whether this is your first day joining us or you tuned in yesterday as well, I thank you for being here and recognizing the outstanding engagement work taking place across campus and in our communities. Today, we will hear from several of our 2020 Seed Fund recipients, and we will have an opportunity to congratulate our 2021 recipients. Seed funds are intended to provide startup funding to support community engagement research and scholarship initiatives, and has served as a catalyst for substantial grant funding to propel this important work forward. I'm really excited again to be here, and I am always thrilled and honored to read the proposals. At this time, we will hear from our 2020 Seed Fund recipients. Our first recipient is Dr. Carol Donovan. She will speak about her project. The title is Young Authors Program and Extravaganza for Improved Writing Achievement and Community Engagement. I will turn it over to Dr. Donovan.
We are collaborating with a local elementary school, Arcadia Elementary, and we are providing professional development for the teachers related to writing and writing instruction. This grant helped us purchase books for all the teachers so that they get the same content.
There's a really great professional development writing instruction book called Writing Strategies, and so our professional development has been covering both the book content and how it can serve them in their classroom instruction, as well as just general principles for really good practice in writing. So we take some of what we've done in the professional development, and in front of some teachers, the reading coach, the principal even came, and they tape record and watch me teach lessons with children in the classroom. and then they share that information out with other teachers so that they can see it. The teachers are really enjoying the book from what I've heard. So they're appreciating just thinking about writing and being given time by the principal and the administration to get together and talk about it. But some of the feedback has been that actually seeing someone do the lessons that are talked about in a professional development is really helpful.
For the school itself, it's a good initiative, and it's something that, you know, teachers that are there now, when they get new teachers, they can say, here's a great resource, here's a great book, here's some good strategies. And then we are also having a family literacy night that we've organized. All children that participate are going to get a free book, and we will have some of our undergraduate students partnering as well, and they're going to be providing some short activities focused on writing that parents and their children can participate in. It's really a collaborative effort with the Belzer Parton Literacy Center, Arcadia Elementary, and then our undergraduate students as well. It's fortunate Dr. Donovan and I love writing instruction, and so we would do this all day long if we could, but it only works if it's meeting a need, and the only way to know that is to engage with the community.
When we make the effort to get to know the principals and the teachers, and they share with us what the needs are, we can really kind of tailor what we're doing so that it's a win-win. And I find that that's just so helpful, and it just makes, for me, teaching my students to be good teachers can only be done out in the field. And so by taking them out there, I just feel like it's just the best setting. And so I would encourage anyone to just meet the people who are out there, and they will find ways to connect, and you can find beneficial partnerships.
Well, that was fantastic. I love the passion of the investigators as they talk about their project. Our second recipient is Dr. Holly Horan. I apologize if I mispronounced your last name, who will discuss her project titled Measuring the Impact of Community Dwala Care in Central Alabama.
But I would like to start back to how this collaboration sort of came to be. And an article was published by Dahlia and a colleague of ours, Dr. Lydia Thurston, on breastfeeding and doula care in Jefferson County. And I was reading it and I was like, well, maybe I'll just shoot an email to them and see if they want to connect. And Dr. Thurston got back to me right away and set up a meeting between the three of us to just sort of put our heads together on what Dahlia has been leading for so long here in Alabama in terms of doula work and making doula work accessible, but also what our skills could all bring to the table to help move things forward. It became clear to me that like this might be our opportunity to work on scaling up data collection for doulas, which based on previous experience, as I know, is important as the work becomes more nationally recognized and expanded and integrated into our maternity care teams.
So I have a degree in public health, and I came really from the biological sciences and research science. And so from the beginning, we have always been collecting data and storing it on this ridiculous Excel spreadsheet, right? Like that's what we had. And like Holly said, it's a huge challenge to just get people to submit data. But I've always wanted to have the data because I understand through my public health background how critical that is to make policy change. So when Holly said, let's find a way to make this work better, you know, step it up to a more professional level and make it even more accessible, I was all in. We didn't have time to really upgrade to a fancier system. We haven't had the people power, the bandwidth to do what needs to be done to get to a better level of data collection. So having this partnership has just been wonderful.
There are ways to balance this partnership where you are not burdening your community partners, but you are working with them to benefit them and to provide appropriate support and services in the ways that Dahlia described earlier. So really, I mean, as an anthropologist, it's hard for me to step away from the importance of the lived experience, but really making sure that you are understanding the reason in which you're interested in community engaged work and approaching it with a sense of humility and respect, and recognizing that the timeline and the process isn't going to necessarily look the exact same as if you were doing a non-community engaged academic grant. And really respecting and trusting that process, because the people on the ground doing the work, the community members, are the experts, and it's 100% rewarding to work and learn with them.
Thank you, Dr. Haran, as primary PI. The doula project was incredibly exciting, and it's nice to see the partnerships and how well they're working. Our final 2020 recipient is Dr. Betty Key, and her project is titled Panola Munch and Learn.
The project that I'm doing is focusing on bringing healthy foods to a rural community in the Black Belt, and also bringing health information to kind of link the connection between eating healthy and decreasing cardiovascular risks. The community I'm partnering with is like I said, in Sumter County, and it is the town of Panola, Alabama. And Panola is designated as a food desert area. The community partner that I'm partnering with is Panola Outreach. And Mrs. Loveby Parks is the founder and the director, or founder and president of the outreach. It is a nonprofit organization, and really she is just phenomenal in the community, because she has the respect of everyone in the community, which, that makes it so much easier when you go in with the project. She knows how to get buy-in from the community members. She's been really great to work with, and she has a slogan that her mission is to build community and help families. The community that I work with was always very welcoming and opening, and it's been a great relationship. I actually do have 2 undergraduate students that are working with me on this project. One is an undergraduate nursing student, and then I am a mentee with the American Heart Association's HBCU Scholars Program. So I have a student from Stillman College as well that is working with me on the project. I'm just grateful for the opportunity. It's really amazing. I think some of the things we take for granted, like I said, as far as being able to get healthy foods, even though it may seem like a small thing, is important to the community.
And that was great to be able to hear from Dr. Key and talk about her project. All of the projects are incredibly exciting. I hope you found them exciting. I did. And I really like that she talked about incorporating undergraduates into the project. Now, this year, our seed funding has been awarded to 2 projects. I will announce them both, and then we will hold an interactive session where both winners share more information about the projects, and then we will participate in a question and answer period. So please leave time for questions in the chat. Or please feel free to leave questions in the chat, and I will kind of monitor that. First, we will hear from Dr. Hodges, is the recipient of seed funds in the amount of $5,000 for her project titled Increasing Teacher Self-Efficacy for Writing Instruction Through a Professional Development Focused Anti-Racist Writing Instructional Practice. Dr. Haley Townsend is a recipient of seed funds in the amount of $4,777 for her project proposal titled Empowering Young Women in Rural Alabama Through Menstrual Hygiene Outreach. Congratulations again to you both. I apologize for that phone. Congratulations again to you both. And I look forward to learning more about your work. Dr. Hodges, can you please present your project first?
Looks like we might, is she on?
There she is.
Hey everyone, sorry about that. So Thank you guys so much. We are really excited about this work and this project, and we're really excited to be supported by the Council of Community-Based Partners. I'm working with the UA Belger-Parton Literacy Center, so we've been doing professional development work for the past year with teachers, and now we're going to shift our focus to focus specifically on anti-racist practices, which we know will be really important for our students with everything that's just happening in our country, especially with the decision from yesterday, and just how that's going to change the way that instruction needs to look. And we just appreciate the support so much and love working with the council. So thank you.
Sorry, I'm muted. Thank you, Dr. Hodges, for your lovely overview. Again, remember, you can please put questions in the chat. I will move on to Dr. Townsend, and then we will just kind of facilitate questions back and forth. Dr. Townsend, if you can do your presentation.
Thank you all so much. It's an honor to have been selected, and I'm really excited to get started on the project. I am working with a small group of undergraduate students from the College of Nursing, and we wholeheartedly believe that empowering young girls to know about their bodies at a young age can really encourage them to take charge of their sexual and reproductive health as they get older. So we will be working with Choice Incorporated in Uniontown, Alabama. Amitha Butler, she's a wonderful resource for our college already with some other faculty that she works with, but we plan to provide education about menstrual hygiene and also provide some supplies to house in the schools, because we know that a lot of rural communities, the girls miss school just due to lack of resources for when they are going through their menstrual cycle each month. So through these efforts, we hope that this is just a starting ground for lots of great things to empower young girls in their way of sexual health. So we're really excited. And again, we are so thankful to you guys for giving us these resources to impact these communities.
Thank you, Dr. Townsend. Both of these projects are incredibly exciting and incredibly timely. They both are really needed at this point. I don't see any questions in the chat box, so I will ask a question of each of you. My first question for Dr. Hodges: what do you anticipate will be your outcomes? I know you're involving undergraduates in your process. So to me anyway, at this time in our country, it's a sensitive time to talk about race issues. And how do you think you'll be able to manage that in a way that kind of keeps the work moving while managing the emotion?
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great question. So for the structure, we're actually going to be providing professional development course for teachers. It'll be both virtual and in person, just due to COVID restrictions and things like that. And we have several books. I actually have one of the textbooks right here that I can show y'all, but it's the Anti-Racist Writers Workshop, and we're going to be giving this book to all of the teachers. It talks about how to write objectives that are inclusive and privilege all forms of language, all dialects, and how to implement that in the classroom specifically. And then we do have undergraduates who are going to be working with us. We're starting a program called the Literacy Engaged Scholars. And so we'll have undergraduate students who are working as research scholars. We've prioritized hiring students that identify as BIPOC, Black, Indigenous, or people of color. And so we already have one student that we're hiring, and we're hoping to be able to support another student. And so all of this together is just coming from a place of reflection and practice and supporting everyone in the best ways that we can, being able to address anything that comes up with diversity as well as the trauma, and helping teachers just support their students. And the whole point of it is that writing is advocacy, that the more that we bring writing into the classroom as a form of advocacy and a form of agency, the better for our students. We're going to use a model called the writing as problem solving pedagogy. So rather than asking students to write about their summer vacation or what they did over the weekend, we ask them to write about things that are actually serious issues that they have thoughts and emotions about. And then support the teachers in being able to look at that, assess it, provide feedback, all of those great things. And we are actually planning to apply for a Spencer grant using this pilot data. The Spencer grant is due over the summer, and there's a special call for racial equality that's perfect for this project. And so the pilot work that we'll do in June will inform that as well. And then if that gets funded, we'll actually move this into a second year and be able to do case studies over the academic year with teachers. So we have big plans for this, hopefully.
That's exciting. That's fantastic. There is the question in the chat box. I want to read that to you, Dr. Hodges. The question is from Dr. Daniels. To what extent do you think the nature of the trauma associated with encounters with police might impact the approach you take with the anti-racist training?
Yeah, I think that's really important for us to have those discussions. When we've been talking with our undergraduates about this, they keep saying, we just want more resources. We want to talk about this more. We want to understand it. We want to unpack it. And we want to have a forum for that. And so we're going to provide that for the teachers, and also at the same time be providing that modeling so that they can do this with their kids, because a third grader is coming into the classroom and asking these same types of questions, and the teachers need to have that clear modeling and be able to navigate that. And so and we are also leaning on all the people who are smarter than us and inviting them to come in and help too, because our team does not have all the answers. We're not going to pretend to. And so we are going to have other partners who are able to come in and provide that support when it's needed.
Thank you very much. I will now move over to Dr. Townsend. There's a question in the chat for you, from Dr. Daniels. We have heard from Emifa Butler. I apologize if I mispronounced her name yesterday. How are students involved in your work?
So the student involvement from the get-go, when we started thinking about this, was kind of a no-brainer for a couple of reasons. One being that we are finding kind of nationwide that nursing students, and then once they graduate and become nurses, are really uncomfortable talking about topics of sexual health and reproductive health with their patients, and it's just not being brought up. And secondly, we are trying to get our students more interested in actually practicing in and being involved in rural health work. So first of all, that was just, like I said, a no-brainer to include them. So we are actually going to have them being key aspects in training peer educators in Uniontown about menstrual hygiene and reproductive health in young girls, as well as being the boots on the ground and training the groups of girls that hopefully come in and want to receive training about how to use tampons, how to use sanitary napkins and things of that nature. So they will actually be, really the key people that are helping us provide the training and being in the communities and getting the word out. As a part of our little project, we also want to make the students at the College of Nursing more aware of the lack of resource that those, just south of us tend to have. So we also want them to be motivators and maybe in the future doing drives for those resources for students, so we can continue even after this funding is over to supply the schools in Uniontown with sanitary napkins and tampons and even menstrual cups we've talked about in the future as well. So really we want this to be something that they can take ownership of as well, and just to kind of start something down the line that can be something even greater.
That sounds fantastic. This is a question from Dr. Daniels. One of the hallmarks of community engaged scholarship is the involvement of the community partner. How have the community partners been involved in directing the research projects that you've undertaken? I will ask Dr. Townsend to answer that first, and then go back to Dr. Hodges to answer that question.
Sure. So as I said, the College of Nursing they already have a great relationship with Uniontown. Dr. Mike Callahan and Dr. Sarah Kaler are two people in the college, and they already knew Amifa. So once I found out about her, we chatted for quite some time, and she's just, like I said, a wonderful resource about the needs of Uniontown and that county. So I just asked her, I said, what are your needs? Here's where my expertise lies. I practice as a nurse practitioner in women's health. So tell me, how can we impact your community the most? And I guess it was a few years ago, there was something very similar to this done in Uniontown, but it fell by the wayside. And there weren't any resources or someone who really wanted to kind of take the lead in this. So she was the one kind of comparing my interest and my expertise along with some of the generalized needs in Uniontown, we kind of came to this conclusion. And then just so happened that I had a student that I had did a little talk for one of the student groups. She has a great passion for promoting empowerment of young girls in this way. So it kind of all came together, and it was really exciting. So I really, like I said, I hope this is kind of a domino effect for some great impact that we can make for young girls in that way.
Yes, before Dr. Hodges, I just have a quick follow-up.
Yeah.
So I know this is a really important but incredibly sensitive topic.
Yes.
How do you think you'll get the young girls to participate?
Yeah, so, you know, a lot of times when it comes to young girls, really, I've found in other ways, even when I haven't talked to girls in rural settings, going through the moms sometimes is an important way, getting the information out to the moms, because I've found a lot of times, and more so now, I feel like it's becoming more of a trend. Moms don't really feel, or even if they're in a household where the dad is the only parent, or a grandparent, or whoever they live in the household with, they're not comfortable talking about it themselves either. So if we can kind of advertise to the fact that, you know, we can really help be a great and reliable resource of information, that they're not going to, you know, older girls in their community, that they may receive some bogus information. I think we can do it in that way. And of course, you know, we plan to make it fun, of course. And Amifa said that they've had some things very similar to this in the past, and it's amazing how many girls want to come out and get real, you know, just down and dirty information that not a whole lot of people really want to talk about. So I think the fact that we're just actually offering something that has that stigma associated with it in a non-judgmental kind of open way. And of course, the people we're going to take, the students we're going to take down will be girls. So they're relatable, and it's just an open, kind of laid back and accepting environment. I hope just the sheer fact of that can draw some girls in.
Thank you. And I will switch to Dr. Hodges. I'll restate the question again just to make sure everyone remembers it. Okay. So one of the hallmarks of community engaged scholarship is the involvement of the community partner. So how have the community partners been involved in directing the research projects that you've undertaken?
Yeah, so as I mentioned, we work with school districts, and primarily we've been working with several schools in the Tuscaloosa City schools. We've also worked with a couple of different schools in Tuscaloosa County, and then also reached out to Hale County. So looking at both Moundville and Greensboro. And so they're very key in driving what we do. I'm very much believe in research to practice. And so I think we need to hear what our community partners, especially in this case, the schools, what they're telling us they need. Right now, Alabama has just released, or I guess it happened in 2019, the new Alabama Literacy Act, which has some very high stakes for reading if children are not reading by grade 3. And when we look at reading scores and we start to parse out subpopulations, we see that children of certain races and children that have come from certain backgrounds do perform lower. And I tend to believe that either means there's something wrong with our assessment or there's something wrong with our instruction. And so if we can, and the schools are asking us, well, what can we do to help all of our students? And what can we do especially to target some different groups of students? And so this project in particular was born out of that and saying, well, we're not meeting the needs of these kids, and here are ways that we can actually address that. And here are some strategies of what you can do to improve your instruction so that the certain children are not going to be held back, and no child should be held back, in my opinion. But we have to look at what the law says. And so in this case, we've worked with our school partners and we've said, we have the expertise, we can bring that in, and we can bring in resources, and we can help with this. And so there have been lots of conversations. We have meetings with our school partners. We're very close with the principals and the teachers, and just being that listening ear and hearing what they need, and then developing a project that meets that need. And so, you know, I know writing really well. I know writing instruction. And so here's a way that I can help. And so our partners are very much part of that, and they benefit. They get the books, they get all the resources that come from the funding, and they get our time and our support as well. And so hopefully it really benefits the kids. Those are our unspoken partners. And so hopefully that all comes together. But we couldn't do this without our schools.
So I have a follow-up question. I have lots of questions, but just one. I've done a little bit of work with schools before, but definitely with guardians who are trying to figure out how to help with homework. So it makes me think, I love your project, but is there a role for the guardian? So that, maybe a parent or a grandparent or someone else, particularly if they have literacy issues, that's really what I was thinking. Like, how do you get that guardian involved in this project? Or maybe you don't, but how do you think about the guardian?
Yeah, well, I think they do have to be part of this. So one thing that we did with our current grant, or seed money for this past year, was we actually held a literacy night, and the goal of that was parent involvement and what kind of resources can we do. And we had our undergraduate students prepare activities, and they guided the children and parents through the activities. And then there was a piece where the children were writing and doing what the undergraduates had taught them. And then the undergraduates turned to the parents and said, so here's what you can do at home. Here are some simple tasks you can do with your child to increase their literacy. We did it virtually too, because of COVID this year. So that was via Zoom, and we had teachers who helped us manage the Zoom rooms and let parents in and help safeguard that the people there were supposed to be there. We are hoping that we'll do something in August in person as a second family literacy night. And when we do those in person, we usually provide little pamphlets that have a little bit of information, and then the kids can participate in games, they can do read alouds. And we also try to have funding to give kids a book to take home, and the parents and kids can read this book together. So it's very welcoming, and we offer pizza so people come. And it's an environment where parents can see, here are some things I can do that's not overwhelming, it's not intensive, it can take 5 minutes, and I can engage with my child and help their literacy. And then hopefully it will help the parents' literacy if that's a concern. But even if it doesn't, it just makes them feel more comfortable, because sometimes they're like, oh, you're a literacy professor. Oh, I'm afraid of the school if I had some bad experiences. And we want to just mitigate that as much as we can.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. There's a question in the chat box from Dr. Pruitt that goes to both of you. So I'll ask Dr. Townsend to answer first, just to give Dr. Hodges a chance to breathe. The question is, are there local, regional, or national funders that you think this seed funding will help you to explore so that you can receive additional external funding that will allow you to continue this important work?
Yes, absolutely. I've already started to consider that. And there are actually a couple. First, the National League of Nursing is one that I am really considering, kind of reliant upon the fact, as I said before, that getting nursing students in rural communities, as well as getting them to talk about these stigmatized kind of topics that are not being brought up to patients. And then of course they fall through the cracks. And so really honing in on that, I think that using this pilot data and this experience will really help to apply for that, taking that approach. And then there's also Sigma Theta Tau is the National Nursing Honor Society, and they have great funding all throughout the year, but their big funding is usually posted everywhere each year around November and December. And they really hone in on community engagement for some of their monies that they give out each year. So I really quickly could think of two that could really allow us to expand upon and continue this work.
Fantastic. And one thing I want to mention to you, actually to both of you, I don't want to forget to say this. We have the Institute, the Alabama Life Research Institute, ALRI, and Dr. Charlene Newman is the director of that institute. So basically, I think of it as the People Institute. Yeah, so there are 5 pillar institutes, but that's the one focused on people. I think you both should reach out to her. Your work is important, and it would be really nice. Her job on campus is to help with funding of projects. So Dr. Townsend, the ideas you have were great in terms of funding. So I'm not suggesting I don't want, okay, that what you have is not good. I'm just saying if you reach out to her, she may be able to help you think through additional funding sources and or just additional partners to kind of take your idea to even the next level.
Thank you.
Okay, and Dr. Hodges, if you can now answer the question regarding local, regional, or national funders you've thought about.
Yeah, of course. So as I mentioned, we are planning to use some of this pilot data from this summer to write a Spencer grant, Spencer Foundation. We had already had that plan, and they have a $50,000 competition, which would allow us to do case studies, because our next step is we want to see, so if we do professional development, we really target the teachers. Does that then translate into changing their practice? And so that would be the next step, is going and observing in their classrooms, helping them, coaching them, giving support for lesson plans throughout the year so that we actually see this happening. But Spencer just released last week a special call for racial equity competition, and it's actually $75,000. So that's a nice little bump. But we're planning to apply for that. And again, use the pilot data, which is going to be central to that. The second funder that we have is the Institute of Education and Sciences. I actually have a current grant under review there that's looking at workforce writing. And that's more of like, what do you do once you've graduated high school, and how do you use writing as a functional part of your life? And so this would be a great piece of that. And so that could be another funding source that we're going to probably look at in the next year. And I love your idea for the Alabama Life Research Institute. I wrote it down so that I would remember to reach out to them. And then finally, we partner with the Alabama State Department. Right now we have a contract from them, the State Department of Education, ALSTE, and we're actually looking at teacher knowledge of early literacy. So it ties in well. And so they're our next step as well, is to contact them and say, we're doing this kind of work, and here's what we saw with the districts that we're working with now, those 3 districts that I mentioned. Imagine what we could do at the state level, and see if that we could provide this more at that level to see the true impact of it. And so, yeah, we have a lot of funding sources, which makes this work really exciting to get to do here.
Well, that's fantastic for both of you. And Dr. Townsend, another source is the Alabama Department of Public Health. So given the kind of work you're doing, they are right up your alley. If you back channel a text or email to me, I cannot for the life of me remember the person, because it's a big department.
Sure.
But I will come up with the name of the person if you just shoot me a quick email.
Thank you. Thank you.
So I'm glad you both are looking at the local, regional, and national levels. Good luck with your work. I don't see any more questions. Whitney is helping me stay on track here. So I don't see any more questions, but I'm sure she will text me or email me if I've forgotten something. Thank you or overlooked something. Thank you so much for your responses to the questions. And again, you're both doing incredibly exciting work. I'm excited to see your outcomes and what comes next for you both. Thank you all to everyone who joined us today. I hope you enjoyed seeing the presentations that were completed last year and learning about the projects that will take place this year. Both are incredibly exciting. And now I'm really going to look at my paper to read what comes tomorrow. I want to make sure I get this right. So the third and final segment of the 21st Excellence Awards will be presented tomorrow. Thursday, the 22nd at 1 p.m. I'm sorry. Oh, yes. Award recipients will gather at the venue, and the event will be live streamed via the link you used to join today's celebration. Thank you, and I hope you'll be able to join us again. I know it's supposed to end with me, but I actually want to kick it back over to Dr. Daniels just to make sure I haven't missed anything, and that it is okay for us to end now.
It is okay for us to end. We just want to keep everybody aware about what's happening tomorrow, and you've done a great job with that. Let's give our Sea Grant Award recipients another hand. Excellent job. Excellent job. I'm looking forward to seeing the update on that. And I know those locations that you've identified where you're applying for funding, they are tough to get funding from. So it's great that you have the funds to start with something and build on it. And that's really what we want to do in the area of community engagement. We know that happens in other areas, but not enough in the areas that we're talking about today. And at the same time, there may be opportunities for partnerships across campus with your organization. I know there are some very easy connections to communication related to both of your projects. So this is all about making connections. We talked yesterday about not just making do with this 3-day awards program, but making new. And I think that this opportunity to engage with our seed grant recipients in a different way has been really good. I learned a lot today from you. And Martha, thank you so much for moderating not only today, but managing and leading that part of our great work in the area of community engagement. Well, we've had a full afternoon, even if it's just for an hour. We heard from students this hour, and we also heard from faculty. Tomorrow will be a little different because we'll be having some more of our central administrators involved in our continuing recognition of those who are doing community engaged scholarship. Hopefully, you will be able to tune in with us at the same time. As was said earlier, the same link we'll be using for tomorrow's program. Until that time, have a great afternoon. We'll see you in 23 hours.